So welcome to the Courageous Nerd YouTube channel. My name's Connor. I'm joined today by Cody Kearsley. Obviously, thanks for taking the time to chat today, Cody. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm doing fantastic. And as I was saying, thanks for hopping on this call with me today. And I imagine a lot of people would know you, for your work as an actor. Mainly, I suppose, do stuff like Riverdale or Daybreak. But like you've done quite a few things. But before we kind of get to those, like kind of going back to the beginning, what put you on the path of even going into the entertainment industry in the first place?
Um, well, I actually started when I was 3 years old performing. I went to my cousin's dance recital, and I was trying to get on stage. When I was like 2 years old, I was trying to get up on stage, and mom kept pulling me off. So the next year, she put me in dance classes. So throughout my life, I was, in dance classes or in band or doing school plays, all these kind of things. So I always wanted to be a performer. But I ended up going to theater school when I was 18 for 3 years.
Okay.
And that put me on like the path of specifically being an actor. That's the medium which I'm most passionate about. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I suppose like on that note, kind of going to the most recent thing that you've done, as far as I know, River Road, which is streaming on Apple TV from the 3rd of August, which is very soon as of when we're recording. But I suppose, how would you describe that project to anyone who's hearing about it for the first time?
Yeah, so River Road, we actually shot that a while ago. That was like, we shot that 4 years ago now.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's a while ago. It was only really the third thing that I had done on camera.
Yeah.
So anyways, River Road is essentially a love triangle story between a man, a woman, and drugs, specifically heroin. Yeah. And these two people meet, and addiction starts taking a hold, and they kind of spiral down the rabbit hole. And it's just a study of, how relationships get impacted, how that takes over your life, how that takes precedent, and what harm it can cause.
Yeah, and it's interesting you just told me that about how long ago you filmed it, because I was going to ask how like your prior experiences have like informed how you worked on that project. But I suppose maybe then to flip the question, like, how experienced would you have been when you made River Road? Like, would it have been more stuff you learned after than what you knew before? That makes sense.
Yeah, it was definitely a big learning experience for me. Up until that point, I had only done Power Rangers, which I had like, 2 lines in.
Sure.
And they cut most of it out. I have one line like where I'm in the shadows,
Right.
And then Riverdale, which up until that point, I never really had any big storyline. It was kind of a line here, line there, right? So for me, when Rob approached me about the film, the lead actually dropped out like a couple weeks before filming.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rob came to me, was like, "Hey, we need someone to fill this spot." I was like, "I'm down." So for me, it was like, I wanted the experience in front of the camera, being on set every day and acting the full 12 hours of the day, being in front of the camera, so I could kind of just learn how things work and just become. The biggest thing for me was being comfortable in front of the camera, because I come from a background, like I'm so used to being on stage. Being in front of the camera was a little bit, it's just a little bit, it's a little bit strange for me. So I had to get comfortable with the camera. So that's the reason that I took on this project. One of the reasons I took on the project.
Yeah. I was going to ask about that. Like, you're like, what attracted you to the role, and I suppose like how different is Travis to other parts people might know you for?
Yeah, it was. So not only just the experience, but also the type of character. I mean, as actors, we always want to dive into the gritty stuff. You know what I mean? I want to get into the dirt of the character. So this guy was obviously struggling, and I wanted to actually, do some real stuff, dive into the dirt. Everything else, Riverdale, at that point had been pretty light. There wasn't a lot of heaviness with the character. Same with Power Rangers. So I, like my theater child, like a lot of the plays that I had done I did some intense plays, and I love that part of diving into the shit of the character, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
So I wanted that experience for film,
Absolutely. And I suppose like with how long ago you shot it, like what most excites you about having River Road finally released?
What most excites me? It's cool to finally see it, like, be out, especially for Rob, because Willie, the writer, director, producer. It's a long time coming, you know. So to see everything finally pay off, it's cool because it's hard to make a film, you know. It's tough, especially at the beginning of your career, especially at the indie level. Like it's tough. You have to pull together a lot of favors. A lot of things have to go right in order for it to get done. So the fact that it's out now, it's a huge accomplishment, you know.
Yeah, and were you friends with Rob before? Because you mentioned you got a phone call, or did you? I mean, like, were you familiar with him before doing the film?
Yeah, I actually there was one other film project I had done before that I forgot about. It was this really small web series that we shot for it was like a week or two that we shot on Vancouver Island, and Rob was. I can't remember what position Rob was. I think he was like second AC. He was one of the camera operators. So he had seen me work. We had become friends on that set. So he thought of me on that. I sent in an audition tape, and we got the ball rolling for River Road.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, you mentioned a little bit already that you've played Moose on Riverdale, Moose Mason, and you know, sorry to break anyone's illusion. You know, the perfect all-American town that's filmed in Canada. You know, that's it's in Vancouver. To break the news to anyone who didn't know that. But I suppose the impact of that show for local actors in the area, a bit like Atlanta, there's plenty of productions down there. Would you say that Riverdale's had a big impact on local actors in the area, looking to kind of sink their teeth into something and get their start?
Yeah, for sure. We always have those shows in Vancouver where everyone's been on. It was Smallville at one point, then it was Supernatural.
Cool, yeah.
Then it was 100, and now it feels like Riverdale. Not everybody, but many of the Vancouver actors get their chance, as a guest star or a principal actor, a couple lines here or there, whatever, So I've had a lot of friends that have been on the show, so it's definitely a good opportunity, especially a show with that many eyes on it, with that big of an audience. It's good to start people's career. It started my career. I know a few other people that it's helped boost their careers. People have gotten managers from it. So it's definitely a good opportunity for the local actors, because it's hard to book. I'll be honest, it's hard to book stuff in Vancouver. It's a lot of American production companies up here. And it's hard to break through those doors because they bring a lot of American actors up. It's hard as Canadians to get jobs in these. So Riverdale's been pretty good about, getting us in the door. So.
Yeah, you're kind of touching on this at the end of that last answer, but I was going to ask about even your takeaways from that project. And I mean, you were kind of touching on it, but what would you say has been the biggest change since booking that part and then playing Moose and your career post that?
For me, it was the start of my career, really. Start of my film career, because I got a manager out of it. Through that manager, I got the audition for Daybreak, which that was my first series regular. Also, it looks good on my resume, Riverdale, and I got a bunch of experience on there. So it was a big stepping stone for me into moving into the place that I'm at now.
Absolutely, yeah, and perfect segue, because you mentioned Daybreak and you played Turbo on that, and unfortunately, only ran for one season, and I found it after the fact and binged it, and thinking what shame that it didn't go longer. But I suppose a few years removed from that experience, what do you look back on in hindsight?
From Daybreak?
Yeah,
Daybreak is probably the best experience I've had so far in my career. Like I said, it was my first time being a series regular, and there's just more room for collaboration when you have that type of a role. Because the film industry is a little bit of a hierarchy, right? So when I go in as a guest star, I oftentimes, depending on the set, you can't really say much. You kind of just do what they tell you to do. But on Daybreak, not only was I a series regular, but also those producers and the showrunners and the writers and the creators, they were so collaborative. So I got to go on and have an input and work with the costume designers, work with makeup, hair, and to kind of have a say in things. So I really got to help bring that character to life. So that was, and being from a theater background, which is very collaborative, to me, that was because before I didn't really want to continue acting in TV or film. I was I don't think this is for me. And then after doing Daybreak, I was it can be it can be a really creative experience. It can be a collaborative experience. So it was great. And everyone I worked with was awesome. Had a really good time.
Absolutely. And I read actually somewhat recently that, Daybreak had a really surprising Easter egg or like kind of reference, but it was completely accidental because obviously Colin Ford, who was the lead in that, he was on Supernatural as like the younger version of one of the leads. And there's a character on Daybreak called Sam Dean, which is the brothers on Supernatural. But I think like someone was doing an interview back when the show was on, and that was completely by accident. In fact, they have those two big Supernatural connections, and like it was just like not planned. It was just like completely random.
Oh, that was accident? I always thought that was on purpose. That's so funny. I always thought it was on purpose.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure there's like, some of your castmates, I forget which combination of people, they were like in an interview, and like the person in my position, like what I'm saying now, like pointed it out, or maybe they just didn't know, or hadn't occurred to them, but it was just like, oh wow, okay, I didn't even see that. Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I mentioned a bit before we started the recording, I spoke to Austin Crute, who's on that show a while ago now, at least a year, if not more. And like, I suppose, like, given the dynamic your characters had, like, how was your experience of working with Austin on Daybreak?
I love Austin. He's a really good friend of mine. We hit it off right away, and it was great to work with him. He, literally, his character on Daybreak, that level of energy is as much energy he has in real life, if not more. He probably has more in real life, but he's always on. He's always performing. He's such a entertaining, charismatic, talented, beautiful human. Yeah, he's great. I loved working with him.
Yeah, no, he said a very similar thing to me, what you just said. Well, I think he said, like Wesley, who's just his character, is very close to me. I'm just not as skilled with katanas or something like that. Yeah, I was like, okay, well, I believe you. Like, we're speaking, and I've seen the character, that you're very similar. I can definitely believe that. Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose, kind of to go back to like River Road, like, are there any other projects as well as that you've got coming up you're able to talk about?
I don't have any acting projects coming up. Just doing the audition grind, trying to book a job.
Sure.
But the last project I did was a really great experience as well. It's called Shadow of the Rougarou, which is on APTN Lumi, which is kind of the Aboriginal or Indigenous streaming network in Canada.
Okay.
And I think it's on Apple TV as well. It's a mini series about it's a Métis mythology. Do you know Métis people?
I don't think I've heard of that.
Okay, no. So the Métis Nation was birthed out of French settlers and Indigenous women.
Right. Okay.
And these two groups of people kind of joined and gave birth to the Métis Nation, the Métis people. So it's a mix of Indigenous culture and European culture, and it's kind of its own Indigenous group within Canada and America. There's some in America as well.
Sure.
So and I'm Métis, and so we created this Métis web series. By the creator was Jordan Watch. He's an incredible writer director. And it dives into the history of the Métis people, but also blends Métis mythology, different beings and mythological creatures. So that was the latest thing I did, which I'm really excited about. And we're looking at season 2 pretty quick here.
Yeah, it sounds very personal to you. I mean, just what you described, it sounds like a very personal thing. Would I be right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because the character I played, his mom was Métis and his dad was white, and he was raised by his white father. His mom died early on, so his journey is kind of reconnecting with the language, reconnecting with the culture, and that's similar to me. I was raised by my white mother, and my dad is Métis, who I didn't grow up with. So it was kind of a similar journey for me, kind of reconnecting to that side, reconnecting with my dad, reconnecting with the language, all these kind of things. So,
yeah, for sure. This is actually the last question I've got prepared, and it's quite a big one to drop at the very end. So I apologize in advance, but like obviously you've got River Road, you've got your other projects. I suppose like in a wider sense, like what would you like to accomplish with what's left of this year and like going into 2023 or beyond? Like what are like your goals that you've set for yourself?
My goal is always to be creatively fulfilled and working. So it's been a struggle the last couple years.
Yeah.
But recently I've kind of had a resurgence of creativity. So I just finished directing my first short film, and I'm editing that.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you very much. I also have it's going to be a trilogy of 3 short films. I'm working on the second short film of that. I'm also writing a couple features. I'm working on writing a TV show. So I'm really focusing on writing and creating right now.
Yeah.
I definitely want to move into the directing side of things. So I'm also looking for new scripts to jump on as a director.
Triple threat.
Yeah, I want to, like, I love Taika Waititi. Like, I love his career, writing, directing, producing, acting at like the top level. So I'd love to, I'd say with Bradley Cooper. I'd love to be at that level on everything. So I'm kind of following each path, because it's all storytelling, just in a different way, right? Different perspective.
Absolutely. So,
yeah. So I like to, I got a few projects kind of on the go. I'm trying to just, stay fulfilled and stay motivated.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I guess just best of luck with everything going forward, Cody, and just all the best, and take care and stay safe. And thanks for taking the time again to speak today.
Appreciate you. Thank you for having me.